This is A Silent War Within, the podcast dedicated to confronting the unseen mental health battles carried by our first responder and healthcare heroes. This show is about real stories, real struggles, and real ways to survive the storm and come out stronger on the other side. For too long, stigma has kept you silent. But this is your space to bravely break that silence, share vital insights, and build a community where your well-being truly comes first. Because your service deserves unwavering support.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to A Silent War Within. As always, I'm your host, Kevin. And unfortunately, Kim is dealing with some health stuff, so she's not going to be joining us today. So you just got me. I apologize. I think we're going to begin to research the idea of possibly bringing our last guest, Michaela, on as a fill-in co-host when Kim can't be here. So that's going to be an exciting process for us. As always, you can find us on the internet, on the interwebs, as my boss likes to say, at www.asilentwarwithin.com. You can find us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all those places. We've had really good engagement. We appreciate all of you listening to us. Last week's episode was a great one. It was a two-parter. And a couple weeks ago, we had one of our most successful episodes with Maddie Ann. That got a lot of streams. We appreciate you guys going out and checking that out and checking out the YouTube video and all that stuff. You can find us on YouTube. That's where all of our video content is uploaded at. I'm working with Spotify and Apple Podcasts to get video content uploaded onto their pages as well, so you can have the option to watch us or just listen to us, which will be great. Today we've got a very special guest, Jake Belay, who is did I say that right, Belay?
It's Belay, but everybody says Belay, so no hard feelings.
Belay. Perfect. He is a trauma coach and one that has a growing TikTok presence and social media presence where he talks about that more and more. So one of the things that we want to do here is always honor our guest's journey. So you had a career in law enforcement, so kind of take us back there. How did you as a young man kind of define yourself in that uniform? What was the internal landscape of the job for you? And what was the breaking point that made you meet your trauma head on?
Man, a lot of questions there right off the bat, but how did I define myself? Honestly, that job defined me pretty quickly.
Yeah.
If you'd asked anybody I knew when I was younger growing up, if I'd ever be a cop, they'd say absolutely not. It's not something that I was born into. Nobody else in my family's ever done it. And when I was younger, I was the opposite of a cop. But I went to school for psychology. I got into social work, gravitated toward law enforcement. And once I got on the job, it's like I was meant to be there. It honestly very quickly became a huge part of my identity, and the uniform just defined me. As far as the landscape goes, I mean, I think it's like anybody who becomes a first responder, those first 3-4 years, you're like a kid in a candy store. It's like everything's new and exciting and fun, and you just don't realize what it's actually doing to you. Mentally, physically, emotionally, you just don't really realize it. And so those, initially it just was easy. I mean, it's fun. It was easy. I never even wanted to leave work. And I had one critical incident in particular that completely changed that. That was July 31st of 2019. Otherwise, I mean, I guess you asked 3 questions. I can't remember the third question right now.
Well, the third question was, what was there a breaking point there that made you face your trauma head on, look it in the eye, if you will, that really pushed you toward this, something's wrong with me, I need assistance? Was there that breaking point for you? And I think you've spoken online about this a few times.
Yeah. So I mean, I look back on my career and there's just dozens of incidents that contributed to my PTSD and my experience with trauma. I really talk about that one in 2019 as being the first time I realized the trauma was impacting me. And then there was a second one in 2022 where I went on a call, just a normal everyday call. This is how all these stories start, right? Just a regular call.
Yeah.
It wasn't suspecting anything different. It was two neighbors' dogs had got into a fight and they were arguing over it. It was just nothing. But the more aggressive guy of the two ultimately came to his door with a shotgun. and he had it in a sleeve. And so I couldn't immediately recognize it was a shotgun. And so I saw him through the window coming downstairs with something that just looked like a broomstick to me. And I thought in my head, like, I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with that? Like, let's go. Right.
Right.
And he
Right.
whips the door open, levels it at me. And I found out later pulled the trigger. The only reason I'm probably sitting here talking to you is because he was drunk and didn't load it. And so that was the moment where I said to myself, I'm not okay. And in fact, that was also the moment to me where I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I had one kid at home, one little boy at home, and my wife was pregnant with our second at the time. It just changed everything. Like I said, there's dozens and dozens of incidents that contribute, but that one in 2019 is kind of where I realized it started. And then that one in 2022 is the turning point. It still took me a while to get out of law enforcement. Obviously, I didn't have one of the big mistakes I made. A lot of first responders make this is I had no backup plan. And so I had to come up with one.
Yep.
And I got a real estate license. And as soon as I could, I just quit and went and started selling houses just because I wanted to do anything else. And really, honestly, I didn't realize the full extent of my trauma and my PTSD until I was away from the job for a couple months. I knew I was having trouble sitting still. I knew I'd been dealing with sleep issues for years. I knew I was dealing with some irritability, but I honestly believed that distance from the job and some time was going to change that. But in fact, it got worse. It's like when my life quieted down, all of it became glaringly obvious. And so that's the moment when I realized something was wrong for sure.
Yeah. I talked to one of our other guests that is going through her degree to be a first responder counselor. That's what she wants her specialty to be. And she made the statement that, we don't like the quiet and the still. I'm one of those guys that will really fill my schedule completely full, and did for a long time. Now it's just because I'm a leader at my organization. So it's kind of the requirement of the job now, but it used to be that I would have my schedule so filled so I wouldn't have to listen to what I always called the ghosts. I'm a paramedic by trade, so I carried a lot of patients with me, and I always filled my schedule so I wouldn't have to hear the voices and feel the feelings and sit with my emotions. And I think that's one thing that we as first responders do. And like you said, when I finally would still for a moment, that's when it would hit me. All those feelings that I had inside that were just bottled up for so long. So I completely get that. Do you think that those two events were the breaking point that you turned into something more that became kind of your turning point, or was it something else? Was it home life? Was it other things? Or were those two things the catalyst to make you kind of launch into this trauma therapy and therapist and counseling that you are in today?
No, I wouldn't say those were the catalyst for that. I've always, every job and every career I've ever had has been of service. I've been of service somehow. I've been social work, law enforcement. I've always had that drive to have a purpose, right? And so I leave law enforcement, I get into real estate, life calms down. I realize I have PTSD and ADHD, and I start getting treatment for that. And it took me so long to figure out, first of all, that it was PTSD for sure. And then it took me a really long time to figure out what to do about it. I tried traditional therapies and traditional interventions and traditional medications, and it just seemed like it was a lot of times 3 steps forward, 4 steps back. And I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know what to do. And it was just the kind of experience where I continually thought that I was doing enough, and then I'd have another episode or another bad week or another depressive spree or whatever. And I would just get so disheartened by it. And when I finally got to a point here within the last probably 6 months, really, where I have some stability and I do feel like I'm doing enough and I am making progress, I just started feeling this pull to put the information out there. I started, like you said, I started with social media because that's everything these days. And I started doing some coaching. I coach people with trauma and PTSD online. And I've actually been involved heavily with a nonprofit locally called the 1042 Project, which 1042, I don't know if that means anything to you, Back before the radio went to plain talk, 1042 meant end of watch where I work.
Yeah.
And so
I am familiar with that.
So the goal of the nonprofit is to help first responders however we can, but the focus is definitely on that, transition out of law enforcement or EMS or whatever into civilian life. And so I would say the turning point was that frustration, that feeling, that period period of a year and a half where I just didn't know what to do. And I thought I was asking the right questions. I thought I was doing the right things. I just was wrong over and over and over again. And so I have this strong urge to give the information away, like to make it readily accessible so that PTSD in and of itself is a nightmare. It is so much worse when you don't know what to do about it. So that's my goal.
So 6 months ago, was it just the stability that kind of naturally came with time, or was it something that you did? Did you find something that was super successful for you in managing the PTSD and managing the feelings that come in the ghost, as I say?
So I started doing ketamine therapy, and that was
okay.
That was probably the biggest thing for me. It's not like it solved everything overnight. The way I describe it is it made recovery possible for me. Prior to that, I had taken, a couple more traditional medications. I had done traditional therapy. That's about all I was doing prior to that. And then when I found ketamine therapy, and it's interesting, I found it a PA. My wife's a nurse, and so she works with this PA who at the time was doing part-time at this ketamine clinic. And this PA is a 4th generation first responder. She has a background in EMS. She's got like cops and firefighters and paramedics all throughout her family. So the only reason I even agreed to do it is because of the credibility she had in my mind.
Right.
But so I started doing those treatments, and it calmed my body down. So I was way less reactive. It helped me with the sleep a lot. And there's a lot of evidence coming out about the neuroplasticity effects of ketamine. And it just slowly started to feel like my brain was working better. And then I could think clearer and I could function better, and I could start to seek out, that's when I started seeking out connections with other people, which has been a huge part too, support. And that's when I, got in touch with this nonprofit. They've helped me, and now I'm part of the nonprofit. So ketamine really was a turning point. I think of the analogy as like a cargo ship. You can't just whip a 180 in a cargo ship. It takes.
Right.
I started doing ketamine and started gradually turning in the right direction.
So, and this is just for my education, I guess. Is there a negative stigma with ketamine therapy? I mean, do you have that, you're on special K kind of mentality from your friends and family? Because, I just feel like if say somebody like me were to start that, my family would be very judgmental, I guess.
Yeah. So my mom was a career nurse, full 30-year career. And she and I had an argument about it, like a big argument.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And part of it is part of my story is addiction too. And so I think she was coming from a place of fear that I was going to be addicted to it or something. But to be honest, I don't even really like the way it feels acutely. I like the long-term effects.
Right.
But right. Yeah. And then other time, I try to tell other first responders, in particular cops, like go and do this. And they act like it's LSD or, I think it's a lack of information more than anything. But that does lead to that stigma. Absolutely.
So where do you find information about ketamine therapy? Just online, or is there any reputable sources that you go to for that information about that type of treatment?
So like I said, I just was lucky enough to have that personal connection. And so her name's Amanda. I mean, we're on texting terms now. She actually comes, well, this is the first time I'm going to do it this way, but she's going to come do the treatment at my house, on Thursday.
Yeah.
And so I get a lot of my information from her, but it is becoming more and more mainstream. There are websites where you can go and get like telehealth prescribed, and they'll like mail it to you in microdose. That seems like a terrible idea to me. The way I do it is I go and do it medically supervised at the clinic. So I don't know. I mean, if anybody listening wants more information, you can reach out to me. I can get you in touch with Amanda. We're just
Yeah.
a crazy ex cop and a PA in Iowa, but we can kind of explain what we know, right?
So in our line of work, we have weird ways of coping, whether it's through dark humor or whether we turn to something a little more serious, like pushing the pain away. And obviously there's self-medicating behaviors that usually turn out to be negative and have negative consequences. How did you recognize the difference between unhealthy coping mechanisms and genuine healthier paths to healing? I guess is the correct way to say it.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I said, addiction's part of my story. As a very young man, had some serious addiction problems and got sober when I was 21. That's 5 years before I even became a cop. And I stayed sober the whole time I was a cop, which is good because I never, on the job coped that way. While on the job though, I certainly found my way to be dysfunctional, obviously. Mostly just compartmentalizing, just acting like it didn't bother me and tucking it away, and just until all the compartments got full anyway, and that's kind of when I hit my limit
Yeah.
and quit looking back. But I got, I isolated a lot. I stopped having any sort of social life. I stopped associating with anybody that was not on the job. I was all in the culture. I think that was probably the most toxic thing I did was everything. I just ate, slept, and breathed police work. And so then when I became disenchanted with it, I didn't have any other resources. Like I said, when I left and I did realize the severity of my PTSD, that led me to a year and a half long relapse where I was coping with alcohol, marijuana, and I'm sober. I'm sober again now. So I'm kind of rambling here, but
No, that's fine.
I did cope in healthy ways too on the job. I've always been a big exercise addict, lifting, running. But I even took that too far. I mean, the year after I left law enforcement, I ran a marathon, and I'm a 215-pound guy. Like I'm more like go for a 3 mile run type
Right.
runner. But I took that to the extreme. I can look back and see all the different ways I was checking out, scrolling on my phone, binge watching TV, binge eating food, anything, over exercising, just isolating, avoiding anything to avoid feeling, right? And then ultimately it did turn into that relapse where I was self-medicating a lot for about a year and a half.
So the one thing I've heard from peers that also have struggled with addiction, and I've always said that I don't know if I would call myself an alcoholic at the time that I was drinking heavily, but I was certainly drinking heavy to drown away something. I was going through a divorce, felt like I had, in a divorce, the wife in at least Mississippi and Tennessee get to usually keep the child. And so I felt like I'd lost my child. She was 3 or 4 at the time. And I think I labeled myself as a functioning drinker. And I've heard my peers say that term a lot. Oh, I'm functioning. When you talk about unhealthy coping mechanisms, why do we justify our functioning selves even though we're still struggling with some kind of addiction? Why do we say that we're functioning and think that's okay?
In my opinion, it's so that we can keep doing it. We can keep getting away with it. And I would have categorized myself this last. So when I was younger, like I said, I got sober when I was 21. I was totally out of control back then. It was very much like I looked like an addict. I talked like an addict. There was no doubt. But this last year and a half, it was more, I was functional. I mean, I still was making the majority of the money for my house, taking care of the kids, doing all my father duties, my husband duties, my job, I was still functioning, but at night I was just getting wasted. And that's how I was
Yeah.
getting through the day is I knew that at some point that night I could just check out with that. And I was good enough at putting on that front that I was functioning that when I told my wife, this is a problem, she almost didn't. I mean, she did believe me, but she didn't really believe the extent of it. And part of the problem was I knew I was going to detox when I quit. And so I couldn't just quietly quit. Cause she's a nurse. She's a nurse. She know exactly, and she works in the ER downtown in Des Moines. Like she sees people detox all the time. I was not gonna be able to slide that one by her. So I quit and I started detoxing, and she was kind of like, how did you, she just had all these questions, but I was hiding it. I mean, I got a gun. I'm down in my home office right now. I got a gun safe over there that I would just lock it away in there and nobody knew I even had it, that kind of thing. So I think the reason that people use that term functional is it's like, yeah, I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, this is a problem, but I still do what I'm supposed to do. So just leave me alone.
Absolutely. I think that's a good description of that. So you talked about going through the DTs. Did you have a moment where you said, okay, I know I'm going to have to go through this. It's going to be very difficult, but I'm going to do it. And if so, what was that moment for you where you realized I've got to make a change?
It was actually it's a pretty deep, emotional, spiritual moment that I had. Like I said, over the course of time, I've put all this work into recovering from PTSD, and I've been doing a lot of the right things and seeing a lot of the right people and making good progress. But for the last few months that I was drinking, I was like doing all this work on PTSD and then getting hammered at night. And I went through this phase where I'd be good for 3 or 4 or 5 weeks on PTSD symptoms. And then I'd be drunk and I'd have an episode. And it's like it would start it all back over. And these episodes started to affect my wife and my family more. They started to scare the people in my life more. And it kind of culminated in the last one was the worst one. And don't get me wrong, I didn't like beat my wife up. I didn't like punch her, but we ended up physically like pushing and shoving and rolling around. And that is not me. That's not me at all. Her mom came over to the house and it was just a chaotic mess. And I literally was 1 second in this mindset of like everyone else is the problem and I'm right. And then suddenly I went, oh man, like I'm back in addiction. That's what's holding this PTSD recovery back. That's what's causing all these problems. I got to just face it. And so I don't know exactly what that was. To me, it was some sort of spiritual experience. Just some sort of an awakening that happened just some sort of a break, it's just some sort of it's time. I've been dragging this on as long as I can and I'm about to lose everything good in my life. And it's time to face it. And so that morning, it was early in the morning. We'd been up all night and called my mom, told her, I need some help. Come pick me up. Actually spent some time separated from my wife, separated from my family, just dealing with what I needed to do. And it was the best possible decision I could have made.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That's not always easy for somebody to talk about. When you were in that time of addiction and starting to get out of addiction and starting to enter that healing phase and going through the things you had to go through, if you had to look back and talk to that person who is at that breaking point, what do you say to them now? What's one of the lessons you may have learned through your experience?
Man, I don't know. I
probably a lot of them.
Yeah. I like a lot of us who have been through these experiences. I have a lot of regret. I wish I would have done the right thing sooner.
Sure.
But I think I would just probably want to go and give myself a little bit of grace, a little bit of understanding that there was a lot on my plate. There was a lot. I was dealing with a lot. And, I've said a lot of times at the time that I decided to start coping that way with addictive behaviors again, I only saw 2 ways out of the way I was feeling. And it was cope with substances or disappear forever, if you know what I mean.
Right.
And
yeah.
I've said a million times, I wish I'd seen a third option, but I didn't. I just didn't see a third option at that time. So I think I'd go back and say, like, you survived. It was messy. It was chaotic. It didn't, there's damage that's going to take some time to put back together, but you survived and everybody's intact and you got a chance. So you did the right things, whether it felt like it or not.
So after you navigated this whole journey, because obviously it's lengthy, it's painful, it's messy, you kind of said those things, you turned that into some form of purpose and you created the Guardian Rise community. So tell us about what the vision is, what Guardian Rise is, what you want it to be, and some of those foundational things about the community?
Yeah. So the short answer to that is, I don't know. I'm winging it, but
Aren't we all?
I have I just wanted, like I said, I want the information. I want to get the information out there. I want people to be able to Google or go on social media and be like, I got PTSD. What do I do? And find some information, find some direction. One of the biggest things that I finally started to do that helped me make progress other than ketamine was just open up to people and develop a support network. Because for the longest time, it was me against the world. And that was all my own. It wasn't true. That's what I thought. Right. And so I thought I'll make this online community and people can start building their support network there, and then I can add, I use the school platform because I can create courses and we can do group calls. We can do, and then there's like a message board, but I can post in there. Anybody can post in there. You can DM each other. And it's been cool. I mean, it hasn't grown real fast, but I don't want just anybody joining it either. And so we're up to like 50, 55 members, and we do, not everybody's a first responder. The only requirement is that you're dealing with trauma or PTSD, but there are a lot of first responders, veterans, healthcare workers, dispatchers. And, I've seen people connect with each other in the group, outside of me. I see myself as facilitating it. So I don't know. I'm winging it. There's been a lot of good that's come out of it. As far as the vision goes, there's a book in the future. There's speaking in the future.
Awesome.
I've been in this nonprofit that I've got involved with it fits with my mission perfectly. And so I'm through the nonprofit. I'm going to next week. Actually, I'm going to speak to a class of dispatchers that are graduating from their academy.
Very cool.
So I don't know. I'm kind of hesitant to make a concrete blueprint, because like every time I think I know what should come next, there's a different opportunity that I want to go do. But ultimately, Guardian Rise is just a free community. It's just a place where anybody can join and not feel so alone.
Well, for us, very similar to you, we're winging it. This is, I think you're episode 13. So this is still a pretty new venture. I'm getting to it's not selfish, but there is a part of it that I can certainly say that I'm having a lot of fun and getting to interview people who I've watched online for many years and big influencers, and I enjoy that side of it. But really, from day one, we've always said we don't care if 7 people listen or if 7,000 people listen. It's always going to be the same mission. The growth part of it, while we would love that, it's all about reaching people. And I recently had a guy that listens every week, and he reached out to me and he was like, he said, I was sitting in a dark room contemplating my life, whether I should stay or go. And he said, if it wasn't for, and he named another guy too, I wish I could remember without grabbing my phone. He said, if it wasn't for me seeing your TikTok videos and his TikTok videos and a few other creators that he mentioned, he said, I would have left this world. And I was like, that's what it's about. That one person, that makes it worth it.
Yeah.
My minute, 30-second short clip from an episode, potentially saved this guy's life, or at least had a small part in that where it made him start to think a little bit and go, hey, maybe I am not alone. Maybe I am stigmatized to this mental health thing. Maybe I need to get help, and really start to investigate yourself the way that we have to do when we're in the midst of this mental health battle that most of us in first responder land, if you will, face at some point in time, if we're honest with ourselves. There's a lot that can be packed down, but I always tell people eventually that rises to the top. I said week before last, I said that those feelings were like buttermilk. They rose to the top, and my dad quickly corrected me. So you're from the South. Do not embarrass us. Buttermilk does not rise to the top. Buttermilk rises to the bottom. Cream rises to the top. I'm like, okay, well, I'll fix it. So one of those things. But yeah, it's like that. It just eventually all that rises to the top, and you're going to have to deal with it eventually. And I tell people that very constantly. Even here at our organization, I'm always telling people and we started It's funny that you say you're from Des Moines, because I don't know if you noticed his shirt. This is the peer support group
Oh
for.
yeah. Yeah.
I actually went to the mental health summit that they had up there 2 years ago in Des Moines, and it was absolutely fantastic.
So the Peer Support Foundation is how I got in touch with Dan, who runs the 1042 project.
Very cool.
Yeah. So I know all those guys.
Yeah, they were. I was just looking for a national conference to go to about mental health, because I'd come back. I had went to EMS World, which is our huge national conference, and I'd went there the year before, and really, that's the first time that I had really seen so much focus on mental health. I'd already had to deal with my own, but that's the first time I saw like a public focus for first responders on mental health. And I was like, this is really cool. I wish I would have had this when I was, in the midst of all the things that I went through, and I just didn't. And you do feel alone, and you do feel very separated from your peers and your leaders and all those things. And I came back and I was like, oh, next year, because our company sends us to one conference a year, and they cover us for the cost. And so I started looking for mental health conferences, and the one in Des Moines popped up, and it looked like it was a pretty big deal. And I had no idea that it was not like a big national conference. So I just went, and it's a bunch of, Iowa folks, and which was fine. And I enjoyed myself so much. It was so refreshing to watch guys like you who, from my standpoint, being a paramedic, you guys are the tough guys. You guys are our saving grace a lot of times. I've had a barb from a taser shoot right past my ear to save me from some patient that was trying to get me,
Mm-hmm.
And so when I saw those guys stand on stage and talk about their struggles and break down and all the things, I was like, wow, I am right where I need to be. And, numerous folks that talked, I was like, this is absolutely what I want to bring back. So we came back and started a peer support through that training that we received there, started a peer support team here, and has been successful. We've gotten it to where now, even though we do have systems in place that will alert our peer supporters, very rarely does something happen that they're not already on top of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, peer support is fantastic. And I didn't realize at the time that Iowa was on the tip of the spear for that in the country back in like 2017. Because I was on, I was still a cop then, and I remember hearing about it. And at the time, I had no time for it. I thought, man, this is, because I was all about I wanted to go get the worst of the worst. Like, I want to get the most violent.
Yeah, me too.
The woman beaters, the predators. And I just had no time for it. Like, get that peer support, get that out of here. Leave me alone. And then fast forward to, within the last year or two, I got in touch with him, and I'm like, man, I wish I'd have listened. And then come to find out that the program that started in Iowa, in Des Moines, is the blueprint nationwide. I never knew that.
Yeah. It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. One of the things that I always said, and the way that I never want somebody to get hurt from a paramedic standpoint. I never want anybody to get hurt, but I wanted to be there when they did. Like, give me all the bad traumas, give me the gunshots, give me the heart attacks, give me all the worst case scenarios that you can think of. So I completely resonate with that mentality of give me what you got. I want all of it. I want the worst. So I was always that way, whether you call it a trauma junkie or whether you call it an adrenaline junkie. I was whatever that is. Cause I got so wrapped up and you mentioned it earlier, I got so wrapped up in like, this is who I am. I am paramedic Kevin for 100%. I'm him. And it took a long time to kind of break that cycle and go, that's not who you are. That's your occupation. And kind of take a step back and go, that can be a little part of your identity. Sure. But when you let it take you over, it was just a road that I did not need to go down.
Yeah. And for me, by the time I realized exactly what you're saying, I'd taken it too far. I can't, there's no way I could do the job now. I'm sure I couldn't do it. Definitely not the way I did it. And there's at times I've had some regret.
Definitely could not do that.
At times I've had some regret about, if I'd have taken care of myself better, I could have lasted longer, but anymore, I don't I don't miss it. I gave it my all. I mean, I damn near gave the job everything I had, every single thing. And I don't think there's anything wrong with a person recognizing I'm tapped out and it's time for the next chapter. But there's a lot of courage in the change you've made, and all the while staying in the field too.
There was a girl named Jessica that has a podcast specifically for police officers that are transitioning that spoke at that Iowa conference. And she was fantastic. I think her name was Jessica Flores. I think that's right. I'll have to go look her up to get that right, and I'll piece the right name into this recording. But she was awesome, and that's her whole thing. Like her podcast, her what is it called? You just said it a minute ago. Now I can't think. Nonprofit is all about helping police officers transition into that next chapter. I don't think there's anything wrong with knowing that you're tapped out. I certainly came to a point where I was like, and I was working on a part-time shift on an ambulance while also doing dispatch and leadership in a leadership role here. And we had this call for this, I don't know, he was 35, I think it was. And he just got up from bed one night to use the bathroom and just hit the floor dead. I mean, and his wife does CPR on him, and we get there and we continue CPR. And I remember her just grabbing my shoulders and going, "You're the only thing I've got. Please save him." And that was such a weight. Like, that was such a heavy weight. And I worked hard on that guy, like got him to the nearest hospital and stayed there and helped them work as well. And it was just, I sat back after that call and I said, why am I doing this to myself?
Mm-hmm.
I would rather be broke than have this feeling over and over and over. So, and that's the minute that I knew that, like, it's time, I'm checked out. It's time to go.
Mm-hmm.
And transition into, like, I made the decision I'm either going to do leadership or something completely different. And I went to a couple leadership classes and I was like, oh, I really like this. I can make a difference a different way and not deal with the daily trauma that you deal with on an ambulance. So I went the leadership route and it's worked out, thankfully. Cause I don't, other than the little career I had talking on the radio for a living, I don't have any, I was like you, I didn't have a backup plan. I had no idea. I thought I was paramedic for life. I mean, that was my life sentence was being a paramedic for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So it was crazy. So Jake, I think your journey is a real testament of healing. And one of the things that I love the most about your content and your lives is the fact that you're still riding that journey. I mean, you're still on that journey. You're still there. And that's one of the most refreshing things to see is somebody that can say, I still have stuff to work through too. I'm still working on myself. I think that gives us something to say, like, because so many people are subject matter experts out there, or they pretend to be subject matter experts, especially on social media. And you can find any piece of information you want, right, wrong, or indifferent, out there on the web. And it's just nice to have somebody say, this is what I've done. This is what I know works. This is the education that I have, but I'm still working on me too. Like, I think we miss the boat that sometimes we can be subject matter expert and still be working on ourselves as well. Because knowledge and action are two totally different things.
Yeah. Actually, I let you put that well. Yeah, knowledge and action are different things. Yeah, I have felt at different times a little bit like a hypocrite, but every single person I talk to, we got a big support network, and I ask them, like, man, should I wait? Am I doing this too soon? And they unanimously, absolutely not. And if you got a bump in the road, post a video about it, because someone will get something from it. So far, it's proven to be true. And if there are haters out there, I haven't heard from them. I don't know. They're probably all in my mind. I think that's how it all goes when any of us put ourselves out there. I don't think anybody really hates anything we do, but we can convince ourselves they do.
But I think that's a natural response. I don't think that's anything that anybody wouldn't feel, because, I mean, I feel the same way. I always watch these back to edit them and get everything right. And I'm like, man, I wish I wouldn't have done that. People are going to hate that. People are going to hate that I made that face or hate that I asked that question. And really, in all honesty, there's probably not anybody that looks at it and goes, man, I hate he did that. Probably not.
Yeah.
Nobody watches that close anymore, to be honest. We live in such a swipe society, if that people are not, the people who give us time are people that really want to know the information, not look at the face. So thankfully, because I've always been told I had a face for radio.
Well, I just like that term. That's why I'm laughing. I don't agree
Yeah,
with it.
absolutely.
I think you look good.
I get it. I get it. So I think that this has been a fantastic conversation. Like I said, I think that you provide a lot of hope to the people that are watching you. I think that it's really important what you're doing. I think it's important work, and that we're doing together. I think there's so many creators that have come out, especially over the last 2 or 3 years, that have really pushed for this kind of movement that we are helping to facilitate. You, me, all the other content creators that are out there and doing this work and actually getting somewhere with it. And, we've seen, I'm sure you have stories just like the guy I shared a story about that texted me last week and just let me know that, hey, your stuff helped me. And I think that's what we're all here for, is to help somebody, is to let them know that we've been there. I thank you for your time and your incredible conversation. I think we really have had a good conversation. I hope that Guardian Rise continues to become larger and larger. But I want to give you the chance to tell everybody where you are, how they can get to Guardian Rise, how they can get to your particular content, and just give yourself a shameless plug. I love a good shameless plug. I do it all the time. Yeah.
I mean, that's the name of the game and what we do. So yeah, the two big platforms are TikTok and Instagram. It's at Jake Belay, just my name on either one. You can go to my link. I got a link tree in my bio. You can join the Guardian Rise community there. You can book a free consultation with me there, or just give me a follow, watch along. Like any sort of interaction, as you know, helps me grow my presence and reach more people. And feel free just to send me a DM too. It's not, you don't have to go through my link tree. You don't have to book an actual appointment. Just send me a DM. But yeah, Instagram and TikTok are the two big ones.
And he does answer direct messages. That's how we got him.
Yeah, for now, until I get real famous.
Yeah, real famous. I said that, I don't know if you're familiar with this creator, but there's a creator, Maddie Ann, that we had on, and she was the real popular episode that we had a few weeks ago. And I said, until I get real rich and famous. And she said, buddy, you're not going to get famous. Don't worry about it. You're not going to have that to worry about. She said, you're doing good work, but you'll never be famous. I was like, well, shoot. She said, you picked the wrong topic, the wrong profession. Like, you may be successful, but you'll never be famous.
Yeah.
I was like, well,
I feel that, and I'm okay with it too.
I am too. I don't care.
Yeah.
Well, Jake, thank you. I think we've had a great conversation. I thank you for your time. Again, he told you where you can find him. For us, you can find us in all the same places: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. There's also a couple links at our website at asilentwarwithin.com. Jake, again, thank you. And guys, as always, be safe. Take care of your mind, and we'll talk soon. Goodbye, everybody.
You've been listening to A Silent War Within. If this episode resonated, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, you're not alone, and your well-being matters. It's time to end this silent war.